Yo, Parish Orphans and Retrogrades, special Saturday episode of Rules for Retrogrades today. I have my friend, Mr. Royce White, who's an alumnus of the show. He's been on many times. He's also been on CMask. Coming fresh off primary victory, Royce will now be the first Black nominee for the U.S. Senate of either major party. He's, of course, a Republican in Minnesotan history, elected by all those quote unquote racist America First and ultra MAGA citizens, which is a great point. I'm just reading from a Royce tweet. They're not racist, and this is a high honor, says Royce. The mainstream media can't even mention the history that was made because it doesn't fit their race baiting. And it's going to help Royce against incumbent Amy Klobuchar. Royce, welcome back to the show. Now you are a candidate, a real candidate against an incumbent, and you will not be primaried. You refuse to be primaried out. Congratulations, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And of course, I appreciate being on the show. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, brother. What was that expression you just used before I clicked stream or whatever stupid button you said? So in this situation, proverbially speaking, YouTube, you got to shoot your way out. You don't vote your way out or something. Can you explain? Because yours is the ultimate campaign of like manliness. And this is kind of the manliness podcast. So I love the fact that now you have more skin in the game. You're still saying shoot your way out, don't vote your way out, or whatever expression you used. There's still nothing to be sensitive about. We're going to call everyone cucks the way you do and we do here on this show. Now that I'm the Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate of Minnesota. I love it.
For sure. For sure. No, I mean, we part of the problem in American politics is that these, people stand up to want to run for office and represent the American citizens. They see that there are problems, and at each stage of success, slowly but surely, they start to concede everything that got them to that point. And before you know it, you'll have some consultant come in and say, hey, we can get a couple $1 million behind you, and that'll put you in front of enough casual eyeballs to get you across the finish line. But the only catch is you got to change everything about how you got here in the first place. It's like, no, we ran a grassroots campaign. We ran a grassroots campaign for the endorsement. We ran a grassroots campaign to win this primary. We don't have any special interest or lobby money behind us. We don't have any fancy or expensive consultants from DC. We don't have a campaign manager or a general consultant. And that, some people will say, oh, you shouldn't even say that because it makes your campaign seem like it's not organized. No, this is a testament that grassroots volunteers campaigns have legitimacy in American politics, which is an antidote to the copious amounts of lobby and special interest money that have plagued American politics forever. But in my brand has been, this is the alpha male, ultra MAGA, smash mouth, nationalist, populist, Christian conservative campaign.
I know. Yeah. And you are coming fresh off of a dredging up from the Wayback Machine of statements you've made probably on this podcast or related to your appearance on this podcast, but you also say it on your own. Quote, women are mouthy, which is something people associate with me saying here. And the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, shades of Trump in 2016, is you just being like, yup, I said that. Like, what is it about you? I guess you already answered this, but you, because your approach is non-machine generated, you're able to say, yep, I said that. Like, Trump would never apologize for all of the impolite things he said during the 2016 Republican primary about like the other candidates' wives. It was hilarious. Is that what enables you to go for? Like Ted Cruz's wife, he's like, yeah, she's ugly or whatever he said. Like, you seem to be of that mold, except
I might be worse. I might be a little worse. And the reason why I'm probably a little worse is because I'm a little younger, so I don't have that thin veil of civility that Donald Trump himself even still carries from an older generation. When they say the people have had a belly full of it, the younger people are going to be even more brash and unrelenting in the way that we talk about things. So, first off, when I said women are mouthy, of course I'm not backstepping, but obviously they're trying to take that out of context. And the important context of the comment was Steve Bannon on his podcast asked me a question about how mainstream media, liberals, particularly MSNBC, has tried to caricature the MAGA movement as rube white men who are Christian that are only really upset with the modern age of politics because their women have gotten too mouthy. And in response to that, I said, well, women are mouthy, right? And I mean, it's just to my point was, and first of all, when you make a comment about women, first of all, any broad cultural critique about women is considered off limits. Let's start there. If there's one
Broad,
soul, if there's
broad
one
cultural
soul,
critique about broads, if we can.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. If 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 there's one measure of how rotten our American political culture is, it is that any broad cultural critique of women whatsoever is greatly seen as off limits. Like, for example, women online all the time, and even mainstream media, you know, commentators, politicians, candidates, so on and so forth. You know, they can call us Nazi, fascist, dusty, hotep, you know, conspiracy theorist, you know,
Toxic.
fraud,
Yeah.
whatever they want. They can call us whatever they want. Knuckle dragger. I've been called knuckle dragger online. I mean, they can say any there's no limits, no constraints, but I can't say they're mouthy. And to be honest, mouthy isn't really that disrespectful. It's, you know, the word mouthy means to have the tendency to talk a lot, usually in an impudent way. I mean, it's not even like a very extreme, you know, thing to say. It's not an extreme insult. You know, now when I called Barack Obama a cunt, now that may be a little bit more brash and a little bit more vulgar, but I stand by that statement the same way I do saying that there are women who are mouthy. So I don't know what to tell these people. They want me to like live in this, you know, fabricated sort of persona of American politician, and that's exactly how we got where we are today.
No one would ever dream of calling Michelle Obama that.
Well, you know, Michelle,
Michael.
you know, look, here's what I'll say about Michelle. I can't really tell how political Michelle is. Like, I view Michelle more as a prop than anything. You know, I don't view her as a cold-hearted, calculated political mind. So, you know, she's kind of just a stand-alone. So I don't really have the same emotional feelings about Michelle as I do Barack Obama, just on face value, until if they would decide to run her. I mean, if they decide to run her and she steps out into the arena in that way, then it's, you know, then the gloves are off and we got to deal with her in earnest too. But up until now, she's just been a prop. But Barack Obama is you know, went to
Yeah.
law school. Law schools have been hijacked by the Marxists for a long time, knows exactly what he's doing, ran this country into the ground intentionally, and he's as high up the you know, the sort of high council of anti-Americanism and anti-Christ as it gets.
Absolutely. And by the way, Royce, I was just making a big Mike joke with them. That's
Right,
why no one would dream it. Yeah. Um,
right,
yeah,
right.
look, just
Those pictures with the bulge in the pants are crazy. I still can't tell which ones are photoshopped and which ones aren't because we're living in this AI, you know, generation. But if they're not photoshopped, if some of them are genuine and authentic, it certainly does beg a lot of questions, doesn't it?
it begs at least one.
At least one question, maybe three,
Yeah, yeah,
three.
maybe three. One, two, three bumps. Um, anyway, yeah, I can't tell what's Photoshop either. I'm bad at technology, but on since I have you on feminism, I will say this. This is Steph's book, Ask Your Husband. Here she says the first rule of feminism is, as you were um intoning it well 3 minutes ago, you never say anything negative about a woman anytime, anywhere, for any reason, no matter how
Right.
badly she's acting. And when you came under the fire, sort of initially, and then they dredged it back up recently, women are mouthy. Like you say, that's not that mean of a thing, but you ran into, Royce, the first rule of feminism, which preponderated in the popular culture. You never ever say anything bad about a woman. If a woman's acting obviously really, really badly in public and everyone saw it, then they don't deny it. They just say it must be the nearest man's problem. How is a I mean, as a senator, a would-be senator, you won't really be confronted with that. But I feel like MAGA, Trump kind of has to deal with this. It's a cultural moment, and people are now talking about what we're not supposed to talk about. That
Yeah,
women have gotten really, really mouthy,
yeah,
and I don't know. It's a big, obviously, it's sort of a fixation of this channel. We have to turn that around and let men be men and women be their helpmeets once again. So the further and further you step into public life, the more and more excited I get because I know you're going to keep pushing that one issue, and that is the big issue you're not allowed to talk
for
about.
sure. Well, it's a part of a couple of identity politics issues, and the ones I focus on or have been talking about on the podcast and in public on the campaign are being black, being Jewish, being LGBTQ, and being women, being a woman, being female. But the woman piece is at the heart of the issue. Let's say from a practical standpoint, from a
Right.
cultural standpoint, being black is the linchpin, right? Because the black identity carries the most visceral historical weight in American culture. So being black is really the linchpin from a cultural standpoint. From a practical standpoint, you are looking at a fight between men and women, a political fight. And the problem has been, and I said it before, and I'll continue to say it, we have a crisis of American cuckery where a lot of men would much rather forego that necessary and rightful criticism of any women in pursuit of their in the interest of their romantic and sexual pursuits. It's cuckery. It's cuckery at the highest level, the highest political level, and it is something that we will have to overcome if we really have a chance whatsoever to save this republic. If we continue to allow the American feminist and modern feminist movement to dominate American politics, this country will go up in flames. It already is. It's burning now, but it will continue to go up in flames, and it'll be unrecognizable. There might still be a country here or a place, but it won't be the United States of America. It'll be some strange kabuki political theater hybrid of communist China and Brussels and Davos, Switzerland. So
I mean, as you know, it already feels like that to guys like me or our boy
yeah,
AJ or just guys like us out there. It
yeah,
already feels that way. And here's one thing I would say. I would I would push back on, I mean, like obviously the sexiest issue out there, culturally speaking, has been race. I think it's because of boomers, but that's not that's not the most important aspect of this. I
yeah,
would say aside from just the way the boomers had this absolute fixation with race, boomers of both parties, they think race, racism, these are the biggest issues.
yeah.
This is not my favorite pope. This is one of the worst popes of the 20th century because Francis wasn't in the 20th century, but Paul the Sixth, Vatican II, Paul the Sixth said that even in the glorified state, meaning like once we get our bodies back up in heaven, in humans, the difference of sex exercises an important influence much deeper than ethnic differences. The latter do not affect the human as intimately as the difference of sex. The effect of God's will from the beginning, male and female, he created them. Meaning,
Yeah.
there's so much. I'm not saying race accounts for nothing. Like it's kinship groups and stuff, but I think Paul the Sixth, and I don't say this often about Paul the Sixth, really got this right. In terms of human identity, human personality, the first thing that a kid realizes is I'm a boy or I'm a girl, and that
Right.
plays a much
Right.
larger role than like I'm black or white. Like I have
Yes.
things in common with you, and we have a pretty damn similar worldview, pretty near. And it's like we're both men, whereas women, even, my best friend in the world is my wife. But women are still fundamentally separated from men. Even though Steph agrees with all the critiques of women, Steph wrote many of my critiques of women. I would just say that culturally, because the family is, as the catechism says, the original cell of society, the fact that the feminists got 99% of men out there to be cucks through, I don't have it, this document from this meeting they had at Seneca Falls, New York in 1848. basically got 99% of the men out there in the burbs, even the Republicans, to treat their wives as bosses. We have a real cultural problem that's deeper than anything in the church. That's I'm a Latin Mass Catholic, bigger than the Latin Mass versus Novus Ordo, bigger than race, bigger than welfare state, bigger than
Yes.
even abortion. Like
Yes.
individual families are under assault from tyrants, and they're tyrants who have been through gender dysphoria tricked into thinking that they're the bosses when they could never be the bosses of the home.
Absolutely.